be looking at what the bracket X family of functions, that's bracket X, bracket extract, gen X, and gen extract, what they really mean to the researcher as they code their transcripts. Let's first have a look at bracket X with question mark bracket X. And you can see in that family we have 4 functions in that family. The first 2 are used for extracting or taking out bracketed information from data frame, from text, and the second one are to grab those bracketed text, just that information. And gen X is the same thing as bracket X, except for it can be anything besides a bracket, and we'll discuss what brackets are in a second here. And gen X works just like bracket extract, except for it does not have to be a bracket. Now let's look at what an actual bracket is. I would consider a bracket, let's make the font a little bit bigger, any of these operators. So curly braces, square, round, and angle braces. These are brackets. Now let's actually look at what this really means to coding and writing transcripts. Traditionally, when we write transcripts, we may insert information into the transcript that wasn't actually said, such as student discussion, it's unintelligible. And here we see square brackets were used, or crosstalk at 3 minutes into it. I also would propose that the researcher would use brackets for material that's been read. So down here we have where a teacher's speaking. This information right here is being read from a book, boo-ma-la-la, or moo-ba-la-la. And traditionally I've seen researchers quote read material or boldface or both. And what I would propose is that you use a specific bracket. Now up here we've used square brackets, or braces, whatever you want to call them. I would propose you use one specific for reading. So maybe you want to use curly braces for information that has been read. And the reason is then we can parse that information out with the bracket X or bracket extract function. And let's go ahead and read that in. Library qdap. And we will use the read transcript function, and we'll read in the name of this trans1.x. Let's have a look at that with the trunk df function. Let's actually make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So even bigger. So we see here the data frame that we've read in, person in the first column, dialogue in the second column. What I would do is use remove row to remove anything that starts with a bracket or bracket C from the person column. When we do that with remove row, the name of the data frame is dat, person is the column we're going to remove it from, as you can see right here, and then anything that starts with bracket C, you can just do bracket if you want, it's a little less specific. And now when we look, we see, let's use trunk df to get a better view of that. We see that that bracketed row has been removed. Now let's start looking at some of the bracket X, extract, bracket functions and such. Okay. Now, dat dialogue is the name of our column that has our text in it. And we see that reading from the teacher, and we can see here the text that has been read is shot with a, or set off with curly braces. We can go ahead and extract that now. And we would just use bracket X and see what happens here. Now we go down to that row. Let's read the terrific book together. It's called Mubalala. And we see that that information that was read from the story has been removed from the text. Or we could extract it with bracket extract. And that removed anything that was a bracket. So here was the curly braces information, and this were the square braces information. Square braces information here as well, and if it has character 0, then no information was removed from that row. But let's get a little more specific. Let's tell bracket extract, and let's go find out the argument to it. It says bracket equals all here. Well, for this argument we could use curly, square, round, or angle. And if we want to grab just the red material, we would use curly, because that's how we denoted red material that has been read from the book. And here it grabbed just the curly from that particular row, and that's the red material. Let's go ahead and just quickly look at a few examples of that. Here we see some bracketed information. And one thing you can do with bracket extract is grab also, if you set width to equals to true, you can grab the brackets as well. If you do not, which the default is false, there are no brackets read in with it. Well, let's grab all the curly right here, which we'll pretend is information that was read from the text, and then using paste to function, we'll paste it all back together, and that is helpful for grabbing out all the information that was read from a book or a poem or whatever and pasting it all back together. Now let's look a little bit at the Gen X family of functions, and they work very similar to bracket X functions. Let's first make a little data set here. Look at it, and you see it's a vector of 2, and we see that you can make up your own offsetting information, which has a beginning and an end. Just like a bracket, you have an open and a closed bracket. So here we're specifying anything that starts with a slash as our beginning, and anything that starts with at A, like this, is a beginning. And you can supply a vector, and we say anything that ends with a pound sign, or anything that ends with an at B is the end. And just pretend that this works the same as open curly brace, closed curly brace, open round brace, closed round brace, open curly brace, closed curly brace, something like that. Let's see what Gen extract does with that. And here it grabbed the big dog, and here it grabbed the little cat and running from that sentence. And so the Gen X is a general version of bracket extract and bracket X, where the user or the researcher can specify the beginning and end wrap around text that they want to grab from the dialogue. This is a short video on how to use the bracket X family of functions, including Gen X and Gen extract.